the way Roger Federer displayed a golden racket to Alex Eala, which caused her to break down in tears and leaves the tennis community. For a moment, I was breathless. It wasn't just the gift of a tale. The sensation was that of a transmission of beliefs, a powerful acknowledgement of a young Filipino player who was not well trusted till suddenly, everyone did. To understand why, the occasion was so important that we had to leave. March 2025. Going back to Miami, where the courts at Hard Rock Stadium were crowded with renowned performers. Swiatek IGA, the world's number 2 and 5 times. The field leader and Grand Slam champion, with the current winner of the Australian Open. The victor and the furious Madison Keys Yelena, the 2017 French Open winner Ostapenko. These weren't just competitors, but trustworthy forces on the WTA Tour. Among them stood Eala, who was just 19 years old, ranked 140th globally, and joining the Miami Open with a wild card, given an opportunity rather than gaining entrance right away. To the vast majority of backers she was only a name and an afterthought in the media. Rankings may easily overlook both headlines and algorithms, but she listened and paid attention. From Ella's early years have shaped her path by sacrifice and faith. Having been raised in a home where participating in sports was a shared passion, she became interested in tennis at a young age, and when he was only 12 years old, he left home to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain. Consider the courage needed to relocate globally, adapting to a new everyday training, as well as language and cultural, among the young people with the greatest ambitions players in the game. That leap needed a rare inner fire. At the academy, she was pushed, polished, and all set. The Junior Grand Slam was won by her. Titles, and rose through the ITF circuit, and endure the challenges of challenger events and early departures, acquiring patience and endurance while the route. Even though the emphasis often disregarded her, she kept thinking secretly, stubbornly, and completely that she would have her chance around 2024. Alex Eala's rating is now at an all-time high of 143, producing a small, yet significant passionate admirers in the Philippines, a nation that saw her as their aspirational trailblazer in a sport that is still struggling for popular acceptability there. She was considered the country's respectable daughter, its ongoing project, its belief in creation. Next was after the Miami Open in 2025, everything changed. It wasn't only her first match that she won. She emerged victorious. Then she won. Time and time again. As soon as she was on court against the defendant Yelena Ostapenko, a sportsperson who is well known for employing a ferocious intensity, she was surprised. The tennis world took note. Then she defeated the reigning Australian Open champion, Madison Keys, the victor, and unexpected change to disbelief. Finally, she beat the second-ranked player in the world, IG Switch, as a wild card is ranked 140th in the world. For a few stunned seconds, there was silence. Then, the internet went berserk. Highlights take over social media. Filipino admirers honored on the streets and reporters hurried to explain the celebrities' look that they hardly had discussed a few days ago. The truth was as old as tennis itself. Few people talk about you before you won. But once you press the world to look at, as if it had been watching the whole time. Later, looking back, the marathon felt surreal, Eala said, calling it the pinnacle of her career. And the incident that really put her on the map. Everything seems to fit together at once, and even she had trouble believing that it had really happened. But what happened next proved to be much more impressive. When the tennis community reacts when Roger Federer speaks, does not listen out of sentimentality, but owing to 20 Grand Slam triumphs, 2 decades of excellence, followed by a conclusion in stadiums that departed in September 2022, the weight of crying cannot be denied, considering that Federer had remained a graceful manner throughout the match, occasionally arriving and offering, from a distance, quiet support. But Miami, 2025, returned him to the conversation as Ella's extraordinary adventure ended in a terrible 3-set loss in the semifinals against Jessica Pegula. The scenario was set up for a moment that no tennis player had foreseen. Speaking out, Roger Federer said, a message that broke through the congestion. Like one of his signature backhands. The line, "She is the future of the planet. Tennis." Just 8 words, nothing more explanation. without thorough credentials directed at Alex Eala, age 20. The wild card for the Philippines, which had just brought her to the establishment and rocked it. Excellent Miami Open performance. It had an immediate impact. After a few hours, the quotation that can be seen in all major tennis splashed on the Filipinos' front platform pages and dominating sports broadcasts across Asia. Examination of past participants. Today's stars were asked about it in press conferences. In addition to unofficial observers noticed that it has just gained historical significance because when Federer briefly states his name, it is important for generations. However, many people failed to see that this wasn't distant praise tossed into the open domain. Federer had noticed. In particular, those 8 words weren't the conclusion of his involvement, even though the beginning. During the weeks that followed Miami, rumor had it that he had gotten in touch with via his team, not for a simple congratulatory note or a branding chance, but to look into real guidance on Eala's how would the next chapter appear. In reference to Eala, who had grown up seeing Federer transform tennis into anything. Like art, it's less competitive and more. A lovely exchange of precision and fantasy. The outreach was almost strange. The participant who had motivated her and was now calling her the future and offering to help shape it. The tennis world was buzzing with an excitement of a specific kind. Federer mentoring a young female star was more instead of an act of generosity. It made reference to anything that would transform the game itself. It meant that the man who determined when the investment was ready, in what follows, and that he possessed decided to start at Eala. At the time, few realized that Federer's was much more tangible, instead of widespread praise. A physical symbol of trust that will soon. One of the most difficult WTA circuits, rivals sobbing in front of a packed gathering among astonished onlookers, preparing for a gift that would become one of the most powerful gestures in the sports scene for many years. At an event connected to the Lever Cup, Roger Federer's late 2025 preparations startled everyone in attendance by bringing Alex Eala a racket. But this was no ordinary piece of equipment. It was custom-made, including accents engraved in gold for a year discovered and identified by a Federer's private message himself. Afterwards, those present reported, "It is one of the most intentional and important gifts they've ever seen in an athletic setting." This wasn't a ceremonial, props were distributed to cameras. It was really personal and intentional. A concrete declaration of belief. Without Federer was very direct when he said, according to her, "I see you. I believe in you. Proceed with this." Eala's answer was raw and immediate. She didn't give the players some calming exercises to practice, often seen in public places. She weeps sincere tears of the kind that come after years of struggle, homesickness, early competition, solitary hotel rooms exits, and quiet tenacity on the court. Few people pay attention. In that single golden. However, the difficulty of her journey was acknowledged by a 2-time Grand Slam winner champion. Witnesses described the silence of the room as almost sacred. Federer allegedly touched her, speaking over his shoulder. Not for spectators, but specifically for her. "You finished the challenging portion already. The rest is just tennis." The footage was uploaded on the internet using just one phone camera. There was no advertising, no publicity, rollout without giving official notification. Just a publicly accessible raw video. And the video became viral as people all around the world responded quickly, motivated not by a strategy, but instead by sincerity. Even those who seldom ever saw women's tennis and experienced the many were unaware with Eala's sentiment. Names sought for her right away. Filipino communities across the globe with pride circulated the video, seeing anything significant in it, both personal and symbolic. Commentators called it the most unforgettable event of the year. Players took to social media to express their emotions, seeing the way her tears reflected the unseen weight of a teenage athlete voyage. Belgian champion Kim Clears, longtime supporter of Eala's potential, praised her blend of technical expertise and unusual emotional growth. But going beyond tennis, another person was moved by the image. Explanation. A young Filipino athlete, acquiring a golden racket from one of the best athletes in history, have recorded the universal story of being ignored, laboring in silence, believing without acceptance, and finally listening to the most respected figure in your field say, "You belong." It transcended sports and evolved into something human, something idealistic. Similar to any viral event of this kind, magnitude, not everyone responded to celebration. As the video continued to circulate, the conversation began to alteration. What followed would test just. That was such a great moment. There is no one to tell you that a breakthrough is that it provides. It doesn't arrive alone. It is a celebration, of course, but it also brings pressure, scrutiny, and a new kind of, a sense of expectancy that is quite dissimilar from your unspoken goals when nobody was watching. Adhering to the golden. Following the viral racket moment, Alex Eala was no longer just a promising young player building her resume piece by piece. Became a sensation. She was served as the future's public face. The ranking of Roger Federer in the most dramatic way imaginable. And with those, after 8 words, only champions received a weight. Truly understand. The internet. The subject of discussion shifted almost immediately. Those who formerly cheered her openly began talking about what she needed, to what to do next, to help Federer's faith. Analysts started mapping Grand Slam schedules that are speculative. The Philippine media portrayed each upcoming tournament less as a standard pause on the calendar in conjunction with a referendum. Would she carry out the prophecy? Confirm the suggestion? Was she really upcoming events, or had Federer just been releasing the light of an emotional moment? To her immense honor, Eala used hitting to control the shift. Serene, the giving Federer himself built a career on. In the course of interviews, following the widely shared incident, she didn't exaggerate its importance or reduced it. "I've got a much," she said calmly. "It's very beautiful to know that I'm doing all in my power to the sport." She didn't try to alter the narrative into something bigger than it there, and she didn't stay away from its significance. Instead, she acknowledged it, assumed the responsibility covertly, and kept understanding that, when spoken so freely, conviction is the best acknowledged by work rather than words. After commemorating the event, she returned her focus on the work that had earned it initially, but bearing the it was not tastefully made of weight, lighter. When the 2026 campaign began, Alex Eala took on Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals of the Dubai Tennis Championships and suffered a devastating defeat of 6-6-2. The scoreline was unambiguous, and the narrative machine roared abruptly to existence. Was she a victim of Gauff? One tournament marvel? Possessed the golden. There was more passion in the racket moment than material. In the quick-paced world of intense opinions, an unfair loss is irresistible fuel. What those reactions context was ignored, as they often do. Gauff was playing at a level that day. It would have been a challenge to anybody on tour. Eala had just made her way through in the swing in the Middle East, and was now ranking 31st in the world, an incredible jump from number 140, hardly a bye. In the identical Dubai draw 1 year before, she defeated the 7th-ranked person in the world, Jasmine Paolini, a consequence of shown her legitimacy in the eyes of the elite. A single loss, even a devastating one, is one piece of information in a career still developing. However, after Roger Federer had spoke to her as the future, each slip was destined to be assessed in light of that declaration. Each defeat turned into Eala sensed the interest in the referendum. Team sensed it. Her mom, dad, and Mike Reza, who had made a sacrifice next to her, sensed it from the start as well. After cameras and an early departure from the Qatar Open captured a serene backstage scene, embracing her parents without feeling sad, but in a more intricate way. Weary and grateful at the same time, disappointment covered in fortitude, was the kind of embrace that everybody shared. They've shown too much affection and effort into a dream to permit a single result. Break it. Afterward, she made a statement on Instagram, showing a great deal of gratitude for those who still stand by her and the sport. The message struck a chord deeply, encouraging even more involvement than the highlights of her match, as it shone something more than rankings and her compassion, scorelines. And the golden Alex Eala wasn't unbeatable because of the racket. She was now noticeable because of it, carries its own burden. But what changed her course from a fascinating sports story into something? What happened next was almost legendary as March 2026 drew nigh, she got ready to go back to the Miami Open. Any poem pertaining to an athlete going back to the place where their identity was permanently changed for Eala. Miami, the city where she was located, astonished 3 Grand Slam winners within Roger Federer's surprise wild card, publicly called to the future, where She acknowledges that everything came first. Clicked, but she wasn't arriving as a footnote, and she came back as the 31st ranked player globally, sitting, expected to go far, and tasked for safeguarding the 400 ranking. She had received points for it. Breakthrough campaign. The anticipated were more audible now, strengthened by a year of examination and the lingering echo of Federer's support. However, in spite of the conversation about her centered on Ella has been under strain and prophecy, engaging in a more relaxed and much more crucial work. The discipline taught her at the Rafael Nadal Academy when she was only 12 years old remained unaffected by viral popularity. Continuous oversight by her coach, Joan Bosch, she increased the power of her serve, her fundamental judgments more acute, and her calmness against opponents in the top 10 more seasoned. She had learned from every setback, every challenging rally, every difficult drawing, and somewhere in her, things were arranged on the golden racket rather than as a reward, that is a memento and a source of appreciation, not a reminder of what she has achieved, but of the experiences she has experienced. Morning customs, the mostly empty European junior competitions, the difficulty that preceded homesickness recognition, when the top player of a generation has faith in you. Hands, rather than unwinding, you double down. Even after getting the present, she was still hungry. Deepened it, since the accountability extended beyond the individual goal. It was about honoring religion, demonstrating respect for expectations, and illustrating the concept in combination with, if you work hard, you can finish the circle, the beginning of it all. Federer's. It wasn't simply a personal suggestion. It was an affirmation of trust concerning what tennis may be, what it should be, and how it can seem. If a strong young lady from this is what the Philippines was ready to prove. The Seatown podcast was recorded only weeks ago. Before returning to Miami, Alex reflected on her crucial 2025 run in a way that demonstrated her individuality. I look back then, and I just believe. Whoa, that was insane. It's ridiculous to believe that really happened, she said. Without stopping, in the end, she grounded herself in reality. My goal is to compete on the WTA Tour, to engage in professional tennis, and I'm achieving my objective. Look at how she finds equilibrium between wonder and seriousness. Acknowledges the miracle, then immediately integrates herself into the daily, the demanding realm of tennis professional play, the travel, the relentless training, the mental and physical toll of exhibiting. Getting up each day and making an effort to be better than it was the day before. Something about her appealed to Federer. Capacity, not only an immature personality, but the A person with the ability to weep at receiving a golden racket, but return the next day to 4 hours of diligence. Acknowledging that belief is useless without a job, much like Miami. Alex was ready when Open 2026 approached. Her change from an undiscovered wild card by everyone in the planet to the sportsman Federer trusted with a golden racket and 8 notable expressions demonstrate that the crown is not as significant as the ascension. It is proof that preventing silence from figuring out your worth might lead to. Things are both human and historical. The emotions were real, the moment was authentic, and the future is here now. If I tell someone about the story, if it resonates with you, who needs to believe in their own climb and take part in the conversation? Do you think Alex Eala will take home a Grand Slam trophy in the next 3 years?